here in Europe, right? So the speed of innovation is something which is really like a crucial for the future success of the local manufacturing or engineering, these things like related to this area. So those engineers, they need to really learn, how to speed up the software development, but also the development of the physical parts, right? And how to use the digital tools to speed up that, to really be able to compete, with the rest of the world.
Welcome back to the IoT Spotlight podcast. I'm your host, Peter Rode-Chen, CEO of Tollintech Sub-Solutions here in Shanghai. And my guest today will be Jan Burian, Head of Industry Insights at Trask IT Solutions in Czech and Germany. Jan is the author of several articles on the topic of emerging technologies and sustainability in manufacturing, which will be the topic of today's discussion. And I hope you find the conversation valuable. Please rate us and feel free to share your comments.
Welcome to the Industrial IoT Spotlight, your number one spot for insight from industrial IoT thought leaders who are transforming businesses today. With your host, Eric Walenza.
Okay, Jan, do you want to quickly introduce yourself? Is there anything you would like to add? Here is your chance.
All right, thank you. Hi, everyone. Hi, Peter. Thank you for having me. Happy New Year, actually, right? So we are still right. January, so I think it's a proper greeting. So Jan Burian here. I'm actually analyst by heart. Yeah. So what I do, I provide a research on the technology being developed, used, deployed in manufacturing environment for, like 15, 20 years. So all my career I spent in manufacturing, supply chain environment, straight on a, let's say, factory shop floor, then as a consultant, business consultant with the Big Four, and last 5 years with IDC as a manufacturing insights. And now I'm with the Trask solution, which is actually IT service provider. And funny fact is that my life partner, she told me, she was like, okay, now you transition again. From being pure like a theoretist into the hands-on business, right? So now you deal with the real problems of the real people, and that's actually very true, right? So I'm very grateful for this chance, and I'm ready to share some of my experience with the audience here.
Thank you. So what do you see in terms of future trends? What significant trends are shaping the future of manufacturing in the next decades? And how do you see these trends relate to sustainability?
Yeah, that's actually like a tricky question, right? So I would like also to avoid kind of like a buzzwords, right? And when I'm looking into the future, I'm always thinking in certain perspectives, right? So the one perspective is, if we keep the status quo of the products we produce in a way we are producing them, in a way we're using them, I don't think that there's going to be that much change in manufacturing. It's still be something like material processing, then will be some like a machining, whatever, assembly, and the car still looks as the car, right? So it's not a disruptive change. It's not like a floating bubble or something, right? It's still like a four wheels, rubber tires. It's still like windshield made of glass, so it's still like the steel, aluminum, whatever. So then, of course, it also determines the way how the product is being produced, right? So actually here, if we go towards the more, I'd say, customization, here, right? So the products are being even more like a customized, and they are more like a software defined, whatever it is, right? Car, but could be something else as well. Then, of course, the automation and sort of like intelligence being added on top of the automation, that's where the trend goes, right? So also, if you can look, around the world, especially in the Western world, there's the lack of the workforce, especially the skilled one. Again, so there's a trend to shift certain type of production back into the like Europe or nearshore it, whatever, into the US. And then to make the production, let's say, to make sense out of it, right, from a commercial perspective, you need to automate, and you need to blend that automation with the power the automation with artificial intelligence. That's the way it is, right? So, and from this managing, but before you do that, actually, what do you need? Really need to is like a data foundation, right? So, like a factory of the, even like a factory of the today, but definitely factory of the future. They need to have the like a robust data, foundation. Let's put it like that.
Okay.
And on that you can build all those like a super cool new use cases.
Of course, yeah. So you think that you just mentioned it would probably be automation coupled with AI would be the dominating technology for the coming decade?
Yeah, that's what I believe. I mean, here a lot of talks about like being like a human at the center, of the processes. But personally, I believe, in a nowadays world, of course, that's like a human still should be somewhere in a process, right? But if you just look at the AI, how it's been developed, it's like exponential growth, exponential development, right? So then say there will be like less and less space for the human brain. In this manufacturing process, right? Maybe at the beginning where you have the R&D part could be more creative, right? But when it comes to the production, but on the other hand, it's all a matter of cost, right? So you still have like a country, so production environments. In 10, 20 years from now, let's don't be naive, right? So there will be still like a factories or production environment like full of people as it is, right? So because that commercial aspect matters a lot, but when it comes to the products, which are especially like a software defined, right? So that I believe is going to be really like the level of automation and autonomous production environment is going to grow.
Making a little jump to material innovation. In your articles, you actually about the importance of material engineering. And can you elaborate how materials can revolutionize the manufacturing processes?
Yeah, from a very perspective, right? Because I'm actually big believer in the power of like a primary research, right? Because this is where I can see there is a real value is happening, right? So the entire enterprises, even like a countries, right, are, let's say, based on the smart leveraging of the primary research outputs, such as like materials, right? So this is very important for any organizations or countries' competitiveness, right? So then, because the material itself, it determines the way how it's going to be processed, right? And what the outputs or what the products could be produced from out of that material. And
do you have some examples, maybe anything tangible?
I think it's like a good point, right? So it could be like a different types of like a fabrics, or it could be even like in silicon industry, right? So in semiconductor industry, that's actually the pretty broad area where this development is being quite prominent. And this of course, there could be also the materials which are related somehow to sustainability, right? So and to be like more environmentally friendly. But my point here was really to have a materials like lightweight materials, because lightweighting is also the trends in engineering. And this is also has the impact on the sustainability efforts in a company. Right? So that's also the materials related to recyclability is also very important here. So yeah, again, that's actually determines the way how we produce, how we reproduce, even like the entire life cycle of the product.
Yeah, understand. Okay. So this also plays into sustainability then, this whole material topic, right? So how can manufacturers balance actually the profitability and the sustainability goals, especially in the light of increasing pressure from authorities? How do you think they can actually balance between sustainability and profitability? It must be a big challenge depending on where manufacturers are. And then obviously materials will play a role in technology.
And especially if you do your business in Europe, right? So it's kind of like an over-regulated environment. So you need to be, I would say, twice as smart, right? When it comes to the production, because also the sustainability here is again so determined by it's related to the regulations, but also to the availability of the materials, right? Just because here in Europe there's not much left, right? So the coal or the iron ore, whatever rare minerals, there's nothing here, right? So it's also the way how to smartly using or leveraging the materials or the chemicals which are or whatever is available here.
Mm. Okay. All right. And then I wanted to focus on those two articles you wrote. And then the first one is what's really shaping the future of manufacturing. And there were some interesting things you mentioned, and the first one being hyper automation. So you discuss hyper automation in manufacturing, right? Can you explain what that entails, what it means, and what's the benefits and the challenges for manufacturers?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there might be like a different understandings of what hyper automation means, right? For me, it's really like the end-to-end process, which runs pretty much in an autonomous way, and which is also managed by not that much by the people themselves, but really by the algorithms, by the actually ones and zeros. Let's put it like that. So that's why I see it, right? And it's also like a confluence of like a shop floor automation, like a production lines with combined with the robots, but also combined with by the intelligence which is behind it or above it, whatever, right? Or wherever is it, right? So that's how I see it. And to enable that hyper automation, of course, there's the virtual world, right, which is also actually enabling this being up and running. So that's much more complex than if you just from what you see when you go to the shop floor, the physical world, but also the world of the digital data and data layer.
Okay. And then you mentioned also physical limits. What are these implications? There are physical limits of products that are produced. That's what you mentioned in that article as well. How does this fit together? Why are there limitations?
Yeah, I would say that it's very again. So the production process is determined to the product itself, right? To the material which you need to process, and so on. So there are some limits, or that's how I meant this thing, right? So you can be like give me some like an example. On a factory floor, probably there's like a no exponential growth in efficiency when it comes to the product, which is pretty well defined, right? So you need to change something, right? So you can do the simulations whatever you want, but when it comes to the production process, then to a certain level you can change the technology, but again, so there's limits, right? So you can go beyond that until you change the entire logic of production, for example, right? Or you need to also be thinking about, but that's actually a classic technique of engineering where you're thinking about to design to manufacture, actually, right? But nowadays you need to be thinking about like design, simulate to manufacture, but also design and simulate to manufacture with having like the data and the AI layer above that. It's just something pretty new, I think, and I believe, for many, let's say, engineers or people designing the production process.
Okay. And then another topic I found here is about 3D printing. You said there are quite some limitations when it comes to 3D printing. So what specific industries do you think will be the ones benefiting most from 3D printing nowadays and in the future?
Yeah, this is a really good point, right? Because when I started like looking at the 3D printing, it's like, I don't know, like 10, 12 years ago, right? So it looked like there would be really like, again, like exponential growth in deployments of this technology because it's super, let's say, useful, especially for the like remote areas or for the areas where you need to customize the product, right? It's still waiting for probably for its wider deployment for many reasons, of course. But I see that. But on the other hand, especially in the area of like a rapid prototyping and like engineering. I would say that this is something which like speeds up the process. I mean, of course, we can talk about the industrial use, but anyone can, let's say, Google those use cases. It's nothing that much new, but where I see a real like a power is in this like a engineering and development part, because and also it leads to another thought
in product design. You mean? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but because the point is that there are two situations maybe, right? So there are some, let's say, like a quote to order platforms, for example, where you can just, if you're like a small company or startup and you don't have your own supply chain, you can order. I mean, you just send over your like a drawing specifications, and those like those companies, the providers, they are able to provide you with a part to the certain level of quantity from a defined production places, right? So like India, China, Mexico, for example. And you don't need to have your own supply chain, right? So you can really focus on development of things, right? Testing, digital testing, and then you can just like order your parts. I mean, for this development part, I mean, for the process, I mean, via those like platforms, right? And this is where the 3D printing has like it really has an impact. And by the way, that also, sorry, just like I bridge to my favorite topic, and that's let's say like a speed of innovation, right? So especially here in Europe, right? So the speed of innovation is something which is really like a crucial for the future success of the local manufacturing or engineering, you know, and this things like related to this area. So those like engineers, they need to really learn, I mean, how to speed up the software development, but also the development of the like physical parts, right? And how to use with the digital tools to speed up that, to really be able to compete, I mean, with the rest of the world, right? And that's what we need to learn. I mean, or we need to learning around.
Okay. It's I guess that's also a big topic, is the education around the whole topic on what technologies are available nowadays to get your job done, right? When you work in design, product development, or wherever in manufacturing.
If you're still listening, then you must take technology seriously. So I'd like to introduce you to our case study database. Think of it as a roadmap that can help you understand which use cases and technologies are being deployed in the world today. We have cataloged more than 9,000 case studies and are adding 500 per month with detailed tagging by industry and function. Our goal is to help you make better investment decisions that are backed by data. Check it out at the link below, and please share your thoughts. We'd love to hear how we can improve it. Thank you, and back to the show.
Actually, to this article in general, Industry 4.0, a very big topic from Germany and around the world now, big topic in China as well. So how do you envision the principles of Industry 4.0 to evolve in the next few years? Obviously, everything is going to be data-driven, I would guess, but where do you see Industry 4.0 taking its course? To which direction? Where will it lead us? 5.0, or what is your opinion here in this broad field? Yeah,
that's actually a good question. I mean, I remember when it all started, right? And I mean, at the very beginning, for me, the Industry 4.0 was more like a sort of like a leitmotif. It means like now let's do something. Let's make the German industry great again, right? So that was the initial thought probably behind it at the beginning. But it became sort of like a symbol, right, of everything like a new, or with the foundation principle of Industry 4.0 was that merge of like a cyber world and the physical world, like a cyber physical systems. At the very beginning, the AI was not there really. It was more about like a big data, right? And then it turned, this narrative turned into let's use AI, machine learning at the very beginning, and so on. So this is where it developed, right? I mean, from the like having data, big data analysis, and actually even like a 3D printing is actually, I would say it's like a really like literally the example of the how the cyber world turns into the physical world, right? So, or robot is the same thing, right? So you have like ones and zeros at the beginning and makes the robot like a turn, right? Or to do something. That's a thing. So that was really, that was like the initial thought, right? Cyber physical systems. But that, I think that the people were maybe, of course, there were like a lot of skepticism, but those leaders, they were like maybe too optimistic, right? And a lot of even like companies, even like enterprises, they jumped on that wave and tried to be really like the leaders in these areas. But then after several years, I could see that there were like many, they were like, hey, let's stop, because we invested a lot of energy in that, in the entire like strategies and deployment and testing like a new technologies, and we don't see the results in our P&Ls, right? Or not, especially not, or at least like another results which were like expected or promised, right? Because the enemy of the enemy of those like disruptive activities are, I would phrase it like that, like the enemy of these like disruptions are the wrong expectations of the management. So if the managers are convinced that it's gonna be like a super success, and then they see that on the, I mean, during the entire journey, that it's really quite like a rocky thing, then of course, I mean, they start thinking, I mean, how to cut this, cut that, and how to redefine this, the whole thing. And of course, I mean, if you would like to really succeed in implementing and deployment or in benefiting from Industry 4.0, you need to really start with like a foundation, right? Like you need to understand your data, and then you can like build it like that. And that was something
of integration, right?
Yeah, and it was something what a lot of companies were just like underestimated, and they were like, let's try like predictive maintenance here, predictive quality there. Let's try to an autonomous robot there, right? So, and the more and more digitized they were, actually, the more siloed they were, right? So, because for every single use case, there were like a different application, different set of data, whatever, right? And it's just like that start to be like a super complex and overcomplicated. So what we can see now, and I can see now with my current employer, that organizations are getting back to basics, and they are like, hey, we need to really have that. We need to start, I mean, from the data governance, data formats, and then we can build those the use cases. And in many companies, especially like a global ones, right? It's I mean, typically in automotive, you can see this like if you like a worker on a line and you look at the, let's say, screen like a monitor, and there's some like working instructions and some other information. The data source could be like 5, maybe 8 different systems, different IT systems are providing the information, I mean, for the shop floor worker, right? So you need to, it's really like a good job for IT integrators, right? But in reality, it's super tough to manage all that complex environment.
Yeah, the integration is a very big challenge. Yeah. I'm an old SAP project guy. Integration is the key, and integration between top floor and shop floor. And then making data in silos accessible, it's really a topic that was totally underestimated. Yeah, I agree. So you think actually people are going back to the drawing board, or companies are going back to the drawing board, say, okay, we'll do it again now, collecting data, but we'll make sure they are also accessible in order to make sense of it in an easy way, right? And draw conclusions, really. Yeah.
But what I also see that there's like so many really like a cool tools or solutions, and it's related to the part of the education, right, or the perspective of how to educate the people. Because I mean, I used to, speaking for myself, I used to start my career working in factories, so like especially like quality management and project management, and it wasn't that like a part of my like a daily routine to absorb like a new information. I had like I worked like I don't know, like 9 hours a day, and it was it, right? So I was very, very focused on the daily like operations, right? And I didn't have like any capacity to develop myself or to educate myself, right? And this is maybe 20 years ago, it didn't really matter, but now, I mean, with all those like possibilities, like which, I mean, the tools which could really make your life like much more easier on the industrial level, right? So that's unbelievable. So the organizations also need to implement that, not just like a strategy, but the entire like a learning culture. It's not like a buzzword or the cheap recommendation, right? But this is, I wrote like several articles about this actually, because I can see that like how biased some people are, right? In working in environments, like you can talk to I don't know if you speak to or talk to the head of IT of some like even like a big company. He's like, hey, AI, why are you just like why are you like bothering like about AI? I mean, it's been here for like 15 years, for example, right? So I'm like, all right. I mean, actually, in principle, you might be right, but now you can see, I mean, with the generative AI, it could help you, like, if you have like a international footprint, I mean, the possibilities are almost endless, right? So that's what I see. Sometimes what I'm missing is that sort of like the education, like among the people.
Yeah. That's of course a very big topic, but I think this will the whole education topic might be a bit too much for today, but still a topic we should talk about at some point in time, which I believe is a very, very big factor. Decoupling the thought of manufacturing with unskilled and dirty or something. No, that has to be overcome nowadays, especially in the West. Yeah. I would say we nearly hit the 30 minutes, so let's close with a final question about the future outlook. So looking ahead, what do you see in terms of advancements in using emerging technologies to improve sustainable manufacturing? If you want, within the automotive industry, I think this is mostly your playing field. Right?
Yeah, I'd say there's like one tech which is actually like goes across the entire product process, and that's actually the digital twin, right? Or sometimes, I mean, we go even further, and we call it like a digital twin of digital twins, or even like industrial metaverse, right? Something which is really like capturing the entire R&D product process and the way it's being used after sales as well, right? So the entire life cycle of the product, and make it like of course, there's like a digital way, and there should be also the physical and digital way, right? Of blending both together. So this is where I see that's really like a tech which is going to help to, optimize not just like a process, and also not just to simulate, but also to have a real impact on the way the product is being designed, manufactured, and being used, right? So that's I would say like number one, let's call it like technology, which I see, right? I would like to talk about like a quantum computing and the other like a cool stuff, or artificial general intelligence, but it's or the humanoid robots actually, right? So this is like a hot topic, especially in China. By the way, just like maybe a comment on this, right? Because I find it like a person like really cool, because it's something really like new, and I really enjoy looking at those developments. But of course, if you talk to the people in the factories, especially the ones who are responsible for the fleets of the robots, right, they are still kind of skeptical, right? So it's still some years like ahead to see where this actually goes. But I can also see this gonna be like the future, right? Like this physical AI, right? Blend it with the automation.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, Jan Burian, thanks a lot. I think that was very valuable information you conveyed here for us today. So thanks everybody for listening in, and hear you at the next podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to another edition of the Industrial IoT Spotlight. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at IoT1HQ, and to check out our database of case studies on IoT1.com. If you have unique insight or a project deployment story to share, we'd love to feature you on a future edition. Write us at eric.walenza@iot1.com.